You think you know Siberia? Snow, exile, and endless cold? You couldn't be more wrong. If you turn away now, you'll never know what really lies beneath that snow. A world so strange, it feels like Earth is hiding another realm inside it. In this video, we'll start with fascinating facts that reveal what Siberia really is, and then travel through its most astonishing places. From frozen wastelands to landscapes that feel like another planet. Stay until the end. You'll see how this frozen wilderness connects to the living edge of the Pacific. Siberia, a single word that sounds like exile, ice, and emptiness. But what if everything you think you know about it is only half true? Because behind that frozen reputation hides a world so vast and unpredictable that even maps struggle to contain it. How vast? It stretches for more than 13 million square kilometers. That's almost 5 million square miles, larger than the United States and Europe combined. And yet, less than 1 person per square kilometer lives here. But here's the part nobody talks about. Siberia isn't one endless sheet of snow. It's a continent inside a country, one that holds volcanoes, deserts, glaciers, rainforests, and rivers so massive they seem to have no end. Still, let's start with something simple. The question that confuses almost everyone. Where does Siberia actually begin and end? There's no clear border. Ask 10 Russians, and you'll get 10 answers. Technically, it begins just east of the Ural Mountains, the invisible line dividing Europe and Asia, and stretches all the way to the Pacific Ocean, nearly 7,000 kilometers across. That's about 4,300 miles. If you took a train from one side to the other, without stopping, you'd need a full week to cross it. Now, here's something that might surprise you. Despite the brutal cold, Siberia is full of life. Its forests, known as the taiga, form the largest continuous forest on Earth, even bigger than the Amazon. It's home to brown bears, moose, wolves, and Siberian tigers, creatures that have learned to survive temperatures that can drop below -60 degrees Celsius or -76 degrees Fahrenheit. But wait. It gets stranger. Under those forests lies a secret world, a frozen one. Most of Siberia sits on permafrost, a layer of ground that has remained frozen for tens of thousands of years. When it melts, it reveals ancient secrets, mammoths with fur still intact, seeds that sprout after 30,000 years in ice. Even viruses, scientists call zombie viruses, preserved since the Ice Age and reawakening as the ground thaws. And that's not the only mystery buried here. Beneath Siberia's surface lie immense riches: oil, gas, gold, and diamonds. In fact, nearly 80% of Russia's natural resources come from this region. It's no exaggeration to say Siberia keeps Russia alive, but the land takes back what it gives. The same frozen ground that hides wealth can also swallow cities. Buildings crack, pipelines twist, and entire towns sink as permafrost softens. That's the paradox of Siberia. Everything here exists on borrowed time. Now here's a question that always stuns people. If Siberia is so cold, why are there volcanoes? The answer lies deep beneath the Pacific Rim, in a fiery ring of shifting tectonic plates. The eastern edge of Siberia sits right on this boundary, meaning the ground here breathes heat from the Earth itself. More than 300 volcanoes rise across this land, some still alive and spewing steam, and one of them erupts with such force that it can change the color of the sky thousands of kilometers away. But not everything in Siberia burns or freezes. In fact, parts of it bloom. Spring melts the snow and floods the valleys, turning endless white into seas of green and wildflowers. For a few short months, the land comes alive. Rivers rush, animals return, and the air fills with the hum of life. Still, even that transformation hides something deeper. Because while most of us imagine Siberia as barren, it's home to more than 40 ethnic groups, each with their own languages, traditions, and stories. From the Yakuts of the Far East to the Nenets of the Arctic tundra, many still live the way their ancestors did, herding reindeer, following the seasons, and surviving where few others could. And yet, Siberia isn't untouched by history. Its name still echoes with one of humanity's darkest chapters. The Gulag system. Under Stalin, millions were sent here, prisoners, artists, teachers, soldiers, to labor in mines and camps scattered through the wilderness. For many, it was a one-way journey. The forests around Kolyma and Magadan became graveyards without markers. But even from that suffering, stories of endurance and courage emerged, of people who found beauty and hope in the harshest land on Earth. And that brings us to one of Siberia's greatest contradictions. It's a place of extremes, where life and death, fire and ice, coexist side by side. A place so harsh it feels uninhabitable, yet so beautiful it defies reason. Scientists come here to study climate change. Travelers come here to lose themselves in silence. But here's the question that still puzzles geographers and explorers alike. How can one land hold volcanoes, glaciers, deserts, and rainforests all at once? The answer lies in its size and diversity. From the Pacific coast to the Arctic Ocean, Siberia spans over 4,000 kilometers, 2,500 miles, north to south, crossing multiple climates, ecosystems, and time zones. So when people ask, what is Siberia really like? The answer is simple. It's everything. It's the world's largest wilderness, the last frontier, and one of the few places on Earth where nature still reigns completely free. And now that you know the truth behind this vast and unpredictable land, it's time to see it with your own eyes. Because what comes next will take you deeper into the heart of Siberia, to places so wild, so unreal, you'll wonder how they can possibly exist on the same planet as us. Few places on Earth feel as wild as this. Tucked in Russia's far east, the Kamchatka Peninsula stretches nearly 1,200 kilometers, about 750 miles, between the Pacific Ocean and the Sea of Okhotsk. It's one of the most remote regions on the planet. And that isolation has preserved something rare, a landscape that still looks like the world before humans. For most of the year, Kamchatka can't be reached by road. No railways connect it to mainland Russia. Supplies arrive by air or by sea. And yet, despite that remoteness, this region is home to more than 300 volcanoes, 29 of them still active, making it one of the most volcanically dynamic areas on Earth. The peninsula sits right on the Pacific Ring of Fire, where tectonic plates constantly collide. That's why earthquakes, geysers, and eruptions are part of everyday life here. Locals say the ground never really sleeps. Even from a distance, you can see columns of steam rising from the horizon, the planet literally venting heat into the sky. But Kamchatka isn't just about fire. It's also a kingdom of ice. Massive glaciers flow down from volcanic peaks into green valleys where brown bears hunt for salmon. It's one of the few places where Arctic tundra, boreal forest, and volcanoes exist side by side. And hidden among all that wilderness lies one of the most surreal volcanic zones on Earth, a place where boiling geysers and frozen craters meet face to face. That's where the real journey through Siberia begins. South of Kamchatka's volcanic heart lies one of the most otherworldly places in Russia, Mutnovsky Volcano. It's not the highest peak on the peninsula, but few landscapes feel this alive. Steam bursts from cracks in the ground, sulfur clouds swirl through the air, and rivers of meltwater cut through black volcanic rock, still warm to the touch. Mutnovsky is one of the region's most active volcanoes. Its crater hides boiling mud pools, geysers, and fumaroles that roar like engines beneath the snow. During eruptions, ash plumes can shoot nearly 2 kilometers, about 1.2 miles, into the sky, turning glaciers gray in minutes. The mix of ice and fire here isn't just dramatic, it's scientific gold. Geologists study it to understand how our planet's crust breathes and reshapes itself. Nearby, geothermal stations harness the volcano's heat to power local towns, proof that even Siberia's wildest forces can be turned into life. And beyond these fiery valleys, another world begins, one that carries the silent scars of a forgotten past. Deep in Siberia's northeast, far from any main road, lies a place that time abandoned, Kadykchan. Once a thriving coal mining town built during World War II, it was part of the vast Soviet network of remote industrial settlements. But when the mines closed in the 1990s, everything changed. The heat stopped, the jobs disappeared, and within months, almost everyone was gone. Today, Kadykchan stands frozen in silence. Rows of apartment blocks still line the streets, their windows shattered by wind and cold. Temperatures here can drop below minus 50 degrees Celsius or minus 58 degrees Fahrenheit, and the wind sweeps through empty hallways like a memory refusing to fade. And as the road moves east toward the endless white horizon, the human traces fade, replaced by something far older and far colder. If there's one word that defines Yakutia, it's extreme. This vast republic covers an area larger than Argentina, yet only about 1 million people live here. In winter, temperatures plunge below -60 degrees Celsius or -76 degrees Fahrenheit, turning breath into ice and rivers into glass. And yet, life continues. Villages survive on the edge of the Arctic Circle, where reindeer herders still follow ancient routes across frozen tundra. Yakut people have adapted to a world that would kill most within hours. Their homes built on stilts above permafrost. Their traditions rooted in balance with the cold. Under this frozen ground, scientists have found mammoths so perfectly preserved that even their fur and stomach contents remain intact after 30,000 years. It's a land where past and present coexist in the frost, where survival is not a challenge but a way of life. And beyond these icy plains, nature has carved something that looks less like Earth and more like a dream. Rising more than 100 meters, about 330 feet above the banks of the Lena River, these colossal stone towers look like a city built by giants. The Lena Pillars were formed over 500 million years ago when ancient seas turned to stone and time sculpted the cliffs into spires. From afar, they resemble cathedrals or castles, glowing gold and pink under the Arctic Sunday. Every layer in the rock tells a story of vanished oceans, shifting climates, and long-extinct creatures. Some scientists believe this area holds traces of early life on Earth, fossils older than 500 million years. Yet even without science, the site itself feels sacred. To the local Yakut people, these formations are alive, spirits of the land watching over the river. The Lena Pillars stretch for almost 40 kilometers, about 25 miles, unreachable for most of the year when the river freezes solid. And beyond them begins one of the largest living ecosystems on Earth, a green sea that stretches further than the eye can see. Covering more than 5 million square kilometers, about 2 million square miles, the Siberian Taiga is the largest forest on Earth. It stretches from the Ural Mountains all the way to the Pacific, forming a sea of green so vast that it literally shapes the planet's climate. This is a world of extremes, frozen winters, short summers, and trees that can survive temperatures below -60 degrees Celsius or -76 degrees Fahrenheit. Bears, lynxes, and wolves roam beneath endless canopies of pine, larch, and birch. And hidden among them are rivers so remote that few humans have ever seen their source. For centuries, this forest was a place of exile, where people were sent to disappear. But for the indigenous Evenki and Inets, it's home. They navigate by the stars, read animal tracks like maps, and still live in harmony with the land. It's a wilderness that humbles you. And just when it seems infinite, the forest opens to reveal something impossible: a desert inside Siberia. Yes, a desert in Siberia. In the middle of the taiga, surrounded by snow-covered peaks, lies the Chara Sands, a 10-kilometer wide, about 6-mile wide, patch of golden dunes. Wind sculpted this landscape during the last ice age, when glaciers crushed rock into fine sand and left it behind as the ice retreated. The result is surreal: waves of dunes rising in the shadow of snowy mountains. In summer, the sand burns under the sun. In winter, it freezes solid. It's a place that defies logic, where frost and fire coexist. Few visitors ever reach it, but satellite images show the dunes glowing gold against a background of dark green forest. It looks like a mirage, but it's real, a geological accident that nature never corrected. And when the dunes fade into forest again, the land shifts once more, this time into towers of stone that seem to breathe. Near the city of Krasnoyarsk rises a landscape that feels sculpted by gods: Stolby Nature Reserve. Its name means pillars, and that's exactly what you'll find here. Hundreds of granite monoliths piercing through the forest, some over 100 meters, 330 feet tall. These formations were born 450 million years ago, when magma cooled beneath the surface and slowly pushed upward through layers of rock. Over time, wind and rain did the rest, carving them into towers, arches, and walls. Locals have climbed these rocks for generations, creating a unique subculture known as the Stolbists, climbers who scale the pillars barefoot, without ropes, for for the pure joy of freedom. During Soviet times, it even became a quiet act of rebellion, nature as escape. Each pillar has a name, a story, a legend, and as the granite cliffs fade into mist, the journey continues deeper into Siberia's mountain heart, where the wilderness grows sharper, colder, and more mysterious. In the heart of southern Siberia, clouds drift so low they touch the granite. This is the Ergaki Mountains, a land of symmetry and stone. Here, peaks rise like cathedrals, lakes glow turquoise beneath the mist, and silence feels alive. Locals call it Siberia's Yosemite, though few places on Earth look quite like this. The centerpiece is Parabola Peak, a flawless arch of granite that splits into two soaring towers. It's a geological accident, but looks like it was sculpted by purpose. Over 600 alpine lakes are scattered across the range, each one formed by melting glaciers thousands of years ago. For adventurers, Ergaki is both paradise and challenge. Weather changes without warning, and fog can swallow entire valleys in minutes. But that unpredictability is what gives the place its magic. There's no road noise, no human echo, only wind, rock, and time. And beyond these peaks, the mountains keep rising, stretching toward an even older and wilder world hidden deeper in the Siberian frontier. The Sayan Mountains form one of Siberia's great natural frontiers, a 1,000-kilometer (620-mile) chain separating Russia and Mongolia. They're older than the Himalayas, their ridges carved by ice, wind, and water long before humans ever walked these lands. This is a place of contradictions. Buddhist temples stand beside shamanic shrines. Glaciers overlook steaming hot springs. Rivers like the Yenisei roar through deep gorges, feeding the taiga below. Legends say these mountains are alive, and when you hear the wind howling through the valleys, it's hard to argue. Snow leopards prowl the higher slopes, and nomads still ride through these passes, following paths older than recorded history. Geologists call the Sayans growing mountains because the Earth's crust here still shifts upward a few millimeters each year. It's a slow reminder that nothing in nature is truly still, not even stone. And as the ridges begin to fall away, the land opens into something vast, ancient, and blue beyond belief. Nothing prepares you for Lake Baikal, the deepest, clearest, and oldest lake on Earth. It's 636 kilometers, nearly 400 miles long, and 1,642 meters, over 5,300 feet deep, holding 1/5 of the world's unfrozen fresh water. But numbers don't tell the full story. In winter, the surface freezes so thick that trucks drive across it, yet the ice is transparent, revealing air bubbles and frozen cracks that look like lightning bolts trapped in glass. In summer, the water turns a pure sapphire blue, so clear you can see down more than 40 meters, 130 feet. Scientists believe Baikal is more than 25 million years old, a living record of Earth's geological evolution. Its ecosystem is equally unique. More than 2,500 species live here, 2/3 found nowhere else, including the Baikal seal, the only freshwater seal on the planet. For the Buryat people, this isn't just a lake, it's a sacred sea, a spirit. They believe Baikal breathes, and when its ice cracks, it's the earth itself speaking. But as you move away from its shores, the calm blue water gives way to mountains again, where Siberia begins to fold into myth. They call it the Little Baikal, but that's an understatement. Teletskoye Lake, hidden deep in the Altai Mountains, is one of Siberia's purest and most beautiful lakes. It stretches nearly 80 kilometers, about 50 miles, between steep green ridges, fed by more than 70 mountain rivers and streams. Its depth reaches 325 meters, over 1,000 feet, making it one of the deepest lakes in Russia. From the air, it looks like a mirror, long, narrow, and impossibly clear. Locals say you can drink straight from it, and the taste changes after a storm. Surrounded by dense taiga, the lake feels untouched by time. Mist rises from its surface at dawn, and in the distance, waterfalls tumble down from cliffs that seem to glow at sunset. Legends call Teletskoye a sleeping spirit, and many believe its waters are sacred. But beyond its calm surface lies movement, rivers that flow from these mountains to fuel one of Siberia's most powerful arteries. Flowing from the glaciers of Mount Beluga, the highest peak in Siberia, the Katun River is the lifeblood of the Altai. Its name means queen in the local Turkic language, and when you see it, the title makes sense. The river begins as a stream of melting ice, turns turquoise in the valleys, and then roars through deep canyons before merging with the Bia River to form the Ob, one of the longest rivers in the world. Along its 688 kilometers, or 427 miles, Katun changes character constantly. Calm pools one moment, thunderous rapids the next. It's a favorite among rafters and photographers. But for the Altai people, it's something far deeper, a sacred being that connects the mountains to the plains. They say if you listen closely, the river speaks. And following its flow leads to the very heart of the Altai, a landscape of impossible color and legend. The Altai Mountains are where Siberia turns mystical. A UNESCO World Heritage Region, this is a land of contrast. Snow-capped peaks, turquoise lakes, red canyons, and golden steppe. It's also one of the most biodiverse regions in Russia, home to snow leopards, eagles, and herds of wild ibex. Mount Beluga dominates the range at 4,506 meters, nearly 14,800 feet, revered as a sacred peak and said to be the gateway to Shambhala, a mythical paradise in Buddhist lore. Nomadic tribes have crossed these valleys for thousands of years, leaving behind petroglyphs carved into the rocks. But Altai isn't just about history, it's about energy. Travelers often describe a strange calm here, as if the mountains themselves were alive. In summer, the hills turn gold. In autumn, crimson. In winter, white. Every season, a different painting. And as we leave this sacred land behind, the journey moves from wilderness to civilization, where Siberia begins to hum with life again. In the heart of Siberia, far from Moscow's lights, stands Novosibirsk, a city that shouldn't be here. When the Trans-Siberian Railway was being built in 1893, engineers needed a bridge to cross the Ob River, one of the largest rivers in Russia. They built a small camp for workers, expecting it to vanish when the job was done. But instead, it grew fast. Today, Novosibirsk is home to nearly 1.6 million people, making it the largest city in Siberia and the unofficial capital of the region. It's a blend of Soviet grit and modern ambition. Wide avenues, bright trams, and research centers known as Akademgorodok, a city of science hidden among birch trees. Temperatures drop below -30 degrees Celsius, -22 degrees Fahrenheit. In winter, yet the streets are alive with energy. Life here is shaped by resilience. The Ob freezes solid for months, yet ferries, trains, and people never stop moving. It's proof that even in one of the harshest climates on Earth, progress finds a way. But the story of Siberia isn't just about the cities. It's about the steel thread that connects them all. Spanning 9,289 kilometers, or about 5,772 miles, the Trans-Siberian Railway is the longest train route on Earth. It runs from Moscow all the way to the Pacific coast, crossing 7 time zones and 2 continents. The project began in 1891 under Tsar Alexander III, with a goal that seemed impossible: to bind the far reaches of the Russian Empire into one. Tens of thousands of workers fought through mountains, swamps, and permafrost, carving rail lines across the wilderness. For many, it was a one-way journey. The railway claimed countless lives before it was finished in 1916. Today, it takes about a week to travel from one end to the other, through endless forests, frozen rivers, and remote villages where time moves differently. For travelers, this journey is a pilgrimage, a crossing of a land so vast it feels like another world. And at its end, steel meets salt water, where the continent finally touches the sea. At the edge of the Pacific, where the land of Siberia ends, stands Vladivostok, Russia's easternmost city and the final stop of the Trans-Siberian Railway. Its name means "rule the East," a reflection of the empire's ambition when it was founded in 1860 as a naval fortress. Here, European architecture meets Asian rhythm. Hills rise steeply from the Golden Horn Bay, crowned by the Russky Bridge, one of the longest cable-stayed bridges in the world. Ships fill the harbor, their lights shimmering on the water as the Pacific wind rolls in. During the Soviet era, Vladivostok was a closed city. No foreigners, no photographs, total secrecy. But today, it's vibrant and free, a gateway between continents where sushi bars sit beside Soviet monuments. From the hilltops, the view is endless. The city, the sea, and the horizon beyond. It's the perfect ending to Siberia's story, a land that began in fire and ice and ends with open water. And as the waves crash against the docks, you realize this isn't the end of the world. It's where it begins. And so the journey across Siberia comes to an end, from the fire of Kamchatka to the salt air of Vladivostok. But what began as a land of exile reveals itself as something far greater, a place of resilience, beauty, and endless surprise. Here, ice hides life, forests breathe silence, and the people who call this land home have learned to live where most wouldn't dare. Siberia isn't just Russia's frontier. It's a world of its own, stretching beyond imagination and reason. A place where the earth still feels raw and real. Most travelers only know the name. Few ever see what lies behind it. But those who do never forget, because Siberia doesn't just stay in your memory, it stays under your skin.